Welcome to the Let's Talk About Fostering podcast, the podcast from the Polaris community where we answer your questions and bring you insights into the world of fostering from the people who live it every single day. I'm your host, Faye. This episode is called Men in Fostering, where we'll be challenging gender stereotypes and talking about what it means to be a positive male role model. We're joined by foster dad Phil, who fosters alongside wife Leanne and his 3 daughters for Clifford House. Phil is a huge advocate for talking about mental health and breaking down the stigma surrounding men in foster care. Let's get into it. Hello, Phil.
Hiya, Faye, how are you?
I'm not bad. How are you?
Really good, thank you very much.
Good. Thank you so much for joining us on Let's Talk About Fostering.
Nice, isn't it?
Great to have you here. Was it you who brought fostering to Leanne?
Yes, it was.
So I love this because obviously the theme of today's podcast is men in foster care and kind of getting into that a little
Yep.
bit. So even from the beginning,
Yes.
you as foster dad, as well as dad, as husband, you're the one who's saying, hey,
I think we got something we can do here.
could we do this?
Absolutely.
All right. Tell me about that first conversation with Leanne.
So I come home, and if I'm honest, it was always in the back of our minds that maybe one day we would do fostering. But in terms of our journey and our story was, I'd come home, had this conversation, and it was all I could think about coming back in the car. And I said, when we've talked about fostering, I've spoken to a man today about fostering and this agency. And as soon as I said it, Leanne was straight on it. She was, I've been thinking more about this myself.
Oh, really? What I find fantastic about fostering, and I think a lot of people don't realise, is that regardless of what background you've come from, what work you've done, what your, life has been,
Shit.
you've got something to offer.
Yes.
Do you think that's true?
I do. I really do. And I mean, we love this word diversity and things, don't we, now? But it's actually true. Don't think that your own circumstances should change or whatever you've done previously. Yes, there are times when it can feel quite full on,
Yeah.
but there are moments when you can still have a lot of free time to yourself. You can actually go to things that, oh no, my father missed out. I mean, he'd love to come to a sports day. You just get to go to probably 2 or 3 different sports days now.
Yeah.
You can, there's just so much in terms of fostering that mean that everybody could give it a go.
How would you describe yourself as a person? What qualities have you got that made you think, yeah, I can foster?
I think I like people, interesting people's lives.
Yes.
And it's sometimes the small stuff that fascinates me. I was very much brought up in a world of putting others first. My household was thinking of others before
Nice.
putting others first for yourself. That was a real. I mean, my family got quite a Christian background,
Okay.
and so I just think that the thought putting others before yourself, even when you're thinking of things, that looking at it from the other person's perspective. So from me, it is about having a very open mind,
Yeah.
being open to change as well, and taking other people's opinions on board. I've got some big opinions,
Yeah.
but they're now even not prepared to listen to others, are they either? So I think that's me, but having a bit of an open-minded way about things and be prepared to learn. And often from young people, that's a bit of a gift. We sometimes get a little bit on our own high horse, and we think that we're mini little Einsteins and things like that. But actually, our youngsters can often open your eyes and think, oh, well, we do learn a lot within our job.
Yeah.
We're learning the skills that we need to have because we're in a very evolving world, aren't we? Things
Absolutely.
are changing.
Everything that you've said about your approach, and I guess who you are, and this comes from your background,
Yes.
your character type, your family lifestyle. Do you think people will be surprised to hear this stuff coming from a man?
I think from a traditional sense, I think you use the word traditional. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was very much, we'll kind of look towards maybe our wives, or that women have got that more nurturing, caring, that motherly nature side of things. But I think we've moved on from that, haven't we, really, as not just the country, I think as the world, we realise now.
We're moving, definitely.
We are moving, aren't we? Where we are on that, I don't know, across a broader sense kind of thing, but it's certainly in my household, even through my own daughters, I was very much a hands-on dad anyway. And so I've always wanted to be involved, and, uh, you know, I think it's just as equally important that a man does that, because you could have a daughter or a son, and they're going to need to see good versions of what they might want to look up to.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important that the dad's You set examples to children, Dad. Yeah.
My next question is, why is it important to have a strong male role model? So this is kind of
Yeah, I think you've got to set good examples to your children, and so you can't in a relationship that just let the fact that to let your wife be the one that you lean on her to look after that sort of things. Your children are watching both of you. They're learning off you. So to set a good example, and I think you both need to talk to them. You both, and I think both can play both roles at any time.
yeah.
You-
I think what we're finding in a lot of the conversation out in the world is that men and maybe younger men, it almost feels like they need permission from whoever, wherever,
Yeah.
to be soft, to be kind, to be emotionally available, which is why conversations like this are so important
Yes.
because for a young lad who might think, "Do you know what, I'd really love to be a dad, but oh, is that embarrassing? Or, can I talk about my feelings? But what would you say to that?
Oh no, yeah. To be honest, personally, I think you need to very quickly get over yourself with that a little.
Do you?
I,
Get on with it.
I'm a little bit firmer with that because, to be honest, it's so important. And the vulnerability is big
Yes.
because it's okay for people to see that you're upset. Because it's a nice
There's no shame in that.
you're letting. Whenever I've worked in places, when somebody's given me something of them,
Yeah.
something a little bit more personal towards them, I'm more likely in my job, whatever job I've been,
Yeah.
to give a bit more of me because you give me something. So why would that be any different with children?
So how you grow your connection.
Yeah, it grows those connections because you're thinking, well, that if they can see that I'm upset by this, they know that I care.
Talk us through welcoming your first ever foster child home. Feelings.
Yeah,
How was
that
that
question.
big
Yeah,
experience?
it was actually because you've now decided that you think you can do this,
Yeah.
and actually the moment's come
Yeah.
that a young lad was going to join us. He was 13 years of age,
Okay.
and suddenly you realise I'm in a household of girls, and then we got another boy come to the house, and you don't even know what to expect. And then you're thinking, actually, it's going to be more nerve-wracking for them, obviously,
Yeah.
and yet you know how you're feeling. So I remember that thinking, I know I feel nervous, but what about this poor lad who's got to join a new household? Big beaming smiley faces, thinking, welcoming me.
Yeah.
That might not necessarily feel that welcoming.
It's really,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah, a lot of foster parents will talk about how, you see it through your lens, but actually you can't understand, well, what do you mean you're not buzzing to be here? Why aren't you beaming back at us? But actually it's petrifying for that young
It is,
person.
yeah. It was, to be honest, when I look at it probably if the poor kid didn't realise it, probably felt like a state visit to the poor lad.
Yeah.
You see, because everybody's coming out in procession and they go,
Stood in a line. Hello, hello, hello.
that's right. And so I think we have learned from that try and keep it as normalised and relaxed. But we were nervous,
Yeah.
but
I
excited.
think that's okay.
And I remember the first thing we welcomed the lad, and I think I pretty much brought him straight to the back garden,
Okay.
got a ball out.
Ah.
Said, "You like football?" He said, "Yeah, I do." Well, we kind of knew we got a bit of information on the lad anyway. So I just said, "I've got a ball for you. Come have a bit of a kick around." And it just gave him that little bit of a reassurance that we're all right.
Yeah.
It must have been a little bit awkward for him, but it just meant that while he was kicking the ball, they just got a little bit of very small conversation going. It was good because it was like a first meet.
Do you think being a foster parent has improved your general parenting skills
Yeah.
towards your own kids as well?
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I think where it really does. I think because you're sharing your time.
Yeah.
That is a reality. Is
Yeah.
if you're sharing your time with your own children, with other children, if you've got more children there, you got to spread yourself a bit more thinly. Reality. And I think what you do is with fostering, when my parents got better, is you don't take them for granted so much. And so what you do is you're more conscious of, I need to check in with my kids. And I wouldn't, and I don't mean this, we don't do it maliciously, parents, but I think we can, as they get grown up, we can take them for granted a little bit, that we think they're all right unless they come and tell us. And actually, sometimes as a parent, being in fostering, you are analysing things more with this job because you need to want to understand what children are going through. So in turn, you then start applying that to your own children. And so we nurture when they're very little and young, don't we? And as they become a little bit more independent, you can take your eye off the ball.
Yeah.
Whereas I think with fostering, it really amplifies that.
Okay.
And so then you are more conscious of the fact that, are they all right? I know they seem okay. And so you do make more time for one another.
Have you got any top tips for men thinking about fostering, or men who are just getting started with fostering? And let's say they have a similar dynamic to you. So it's a kind of man woman partnership at home.
Yes.
And maybe over the years, the woman has typically led those more emotional conversations. People do get overwhelmed by having to talk about their feelings, or, especially if you're getting into it for the first time. For you, you're like this naturally, but obviously it's developed as you fostered.
Yes.
But what advice would you give to chaps today
Yes.
to help them navigate this well?
Yeah. I think the main thing is to just embrace the a new version of yourself. If it's not, I'm all about new experiences anyway. So, but I can understand if some people it can feel a bit outside your comfort zone, and the thought of you being the one that somebody's going to come and be a little bit upset with, a bit emotional about, you might have naturally in the past turned to your wife and gone, "Do you want to just step in here?" But actually, because of our children have been through a lot of different experiences, they might actually be looking towards you, and that could come from the boy or the girl. And again, it's putting yourself in their shoes. And so, if you think it is a bit uncomfortable for you, yeah, it's a bit like a new pair of shoes. Sometimes it can pinch a little bit.
Yeah.
But actually, once you let that bit of vulnerability go and think, actually, this is important. I'm trying to make them feel a bit better, a bit happier with themselves. You have to just suppress some of the old traditional methods.
Be brave.
Be brave
Yeah.
and just think, what's the worst that's going to happen here? What? I might make them feel a bit better. And honestly, when we do things, I always think like this. When we do things that are outside our comfort zone, but then we do it and then we feel better.
How you feel on the
The
other side.
elation from
Yeah.
he's like, actually, what was I worried about all that time ago? And
For your foster children in particular,
yep.
why is a positive male role model so important? And perhaps more, I'd like to talk specifically about foster kids, not your own kids.
Yeah.
Is it something that, have you found through your foster children that a lot of them haven't had a positive male role model before? What do you bring to the table that they might not have had?
I think it is that. I think often the cases, and if not in all cases, but they may have not have had a positive male to look up to. And so we need to give them a different perspective on what they think, particularly a young lad, for instance, what a boy can be.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to be this ultra masculine man who's only interested in football and fighting and going to the pub. We need to change that visual that you can be a happy man who's happy walking the dogs, taking his kids to the park, going swimming, going to the cinema. You need to change that visual for them, that perspective of what they think a man should be. Because we know the world's changing, don't we? We know that that masculinity side of a man has got its parts, but you're not going to get very far. You've got to be thoughtful and considerate to everybody. And so only locking yourself into one dominant position, you're going to restrict yourself for a start off. You're going to have even less job opportunities. Those traditional methods there are some things that we can still take from that, are still things are good things for life. But you have to evolve. You have to have other dynamics to yourself to say, actually, there's more to being a man than whether you can lift up something pretty strong.
Absolutely. And you're not less of a man, less of a man. It's all of this language, even the language is problematic, isn't it? Like, you're not less of a man because you cried because someone told you a really sad story. You're not less of a man because you like a cuddle. All of these things. But for you, is it a case of like, do you just own this stuff? Have people made assumptions about you as a male foster parent because it's something that's maybe atypical generally? Hopefully we see more men come forward because you've got so much, everyone's got something to offer. But
I think you can still have moments now where certain questions about the kids that people tend to direct the questions to the lady.
have you
I
experienced
I
that?
do experience that where and actually my wife will be the first to say you before asking you. I still see instances now where, people have conversations and we still think it's the two ladies I'm going to talk about in the playground. But look in your playgrounds now as we speak. Look how many dads are dropping off the children at school now. That's more than ever.
Yeah.
So things are changing anyway. So it's a case of don't worry about it too much. Uh, it's really, it's a great thing to be able to stand there as a male parent and know that you're giving something, a more balanced parenting to this child who's only probably had one or if no parent at all
Yeah.
as such. And so it's great to, I think, as an any individual, I always think about things being balanced. And from a feminine point of view and a masculine point of view anyway, and the showing where they actually cross over,
Yeah.
I think that's important.
The point is, like, be authentically who you are, and you don't need to adhere to the old-fashioned stereotypes of what a man is, what a woman is, or what anyone is. Just show up.
Absolutely.
That's the whole thing.
Correct. And I mean, I was just thinking then as okay, my household works now. Often make the jokes about that it'll be Leanne who will be putting the new wardrobes up. I'll be more likely hacking out the washing and cooking the tea
Really?
because she'd much rather do that,
Yeah.
and I'm happier cooking the tea. It is now not a thing in our house. Anybody thinks, well, that's odd.
Gender roles aren't.
It's just not. And we don't have to make a big thing of it. We don't have to make statements about oh, look at me, Phil's cooking tea tonight.
Yeah.
No, I was just cooking tea, and so they go, that must be the norm, isn't it?
How do you have these conversations with your kind of male friends or male colleagues? Is this something that trickles into the rest of your life about welfare? Male mental health is a really, hot topic, as it should be always, but we're talking about it more and more. Do you find that your wider male network is open to this way of thinking?
Yeah, it's just I was talking to my neighbour the other day about that. I've, I've, I get I get a lot of I get a lot of people saying, "I think it's amazing what you do," and a lot of shared experience and want to know about it. My neighbour the other day commented on what he didn't see in himself, but he saw it in me, and he was really like positive about it.
What did he say?
Oh, so he says, I've heard you in the garden. Now you talk to the kids. He went, you've got so much more patience than me." And often even I need reminding that sometimes. So I think oh really? Yeah, because sometimes even I know how because even I get frustrated because we do doubt me.
But the
So
point with you, Phil, is that you might be a girl's dad, but you'd have raised boys the same way.
yeah,
You would,
well, my
you
foster boys are a foster boys now.
there you go. So the point is, yeah, okay, you might seem softer because you've raised daughters, but your whole approach is open, kind,
Yeah,
empathy, communication. You just happen to have had daughters yourself.
that's right.
That's all that is.
That's it. I think, and it all you. I think to be a good round, if a good to bring up a good rounded child,
Yeah.
you yourself need to be as rounded as well, don't you?
Were you expecting to face barriers as a man coming into foster care? Before you started, did you think this is going to be limiting for me? They're less likely to think I can do it because I'm a man. Did you have any of these reservations?
Personally, no. I didn't feel like that.
You've had lots of life experience in this sector,
Yeah,
though.
I would imagine some people would go into the process thinking that somehow that they wasn't as important, that somehow wasn't seen as the more masculine
Yeah.
and so, but no, certainly my experience from day one from the skills to fostering was we was going as a couple, as a team, and that my opinion absolutely counted. I was involved as much in the whole process. It's you'll very quickly realise that you're going to play an equal role in there. There's going to be an expectancy for you to do that, and just to embrace it, really.
How do you show the lads in your care that it is okay to express your feelings? How do you give them that safe space?
What I tend to find with the Cardigan is a really good one,
Okay.
actually. So it's an opportunity where you're not necessarily looking at one another and not making it too intense. However, you've got an opportunity where you can take a situation from the day at how things are gone at school and ask them about how the day's gone and just very gently think about things that they might have experienced. And they often just by organically having a chat about how the day's gone, how for 30, I mean, often it takes about 20 minutes in the car, how you can bring up conversations about their feelings and their thoughts in terms of girls. And you know what? It's not rocket science. Also, sometimes ask them a direct question. Kids often will happily share with you as well. They don't mind that once you've built up that bit of confidence, that bit of reassurance, that little bit, it's okay to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
But I find that certainly with lads, they're just as keen to talk about their feelings as girls. Just that you've got to be a little bit more slowly
Okay.
with it,
Build it up.
build up that confidence. And you can often get like, I don't know, which is means code for I don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And you're best leaving it there. But then just go with the organic feeling of them. If they're talking about girls, oh, blimey, yeah, fair play. Tell me about her. It's don't keep the questions open.
Yeah.
Don't sound too inquisitive. You know,
There's a balance to be struck
there's a
here.
balance to be struck here. You've got to be really gentle with your questioning, that it doesn't suddenly turn into interrogation.
Yeah, don't want that.
So you keep it light and breezy, that you understand it. I remember when I was at school, that kind of thing.
Okay.
I tell you, oh yeah, I get you.
So if you are a household and you're a single male foster parent, or you're thinking about it, or if you're a household where the primary foster parent will be a man,
Yeah.
don't worry.
Don't worry, you're not going to be isolated because your circumstances looks different to some of the other foster parents. We're already quite a diverse group anyway. I wouldn't worry about that. I wouldn't let that be a concern for you. If you're a single male, trust me, Clifford House want a big and diverse community as much as I can to meet as many requirements that we get coming to
Yeah,
our agency.
good way to look.
So absolutely, flexibility, diversity, absolutely at the forefront. But a single male carer don't think that I couldn't do this. Oh, come on, bro, would it be all right? Would they want me to do it? Or they
Absolutely.
was what you know,
I think
because you haven't got many of them.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
But do you think part of it is that, it's quite accepted in society that a woman might want to be a mother?
Yeah.
And if a single woman wants to mother, we'll go, crack on.
Yeah, brilliant.
But is there
Society tells us that, doesn't it?
exactly? But is there, do you think, still a little bit of work to do for it to be accepted that a single man, if you've not found the right person, you actually fancy parenting alone? That's all right.
Yeah.
But there's stigma there. Unfortunately, they're still facing that. How I don't know what my question is really. Like, we basically need more people. I think it's that vulnerability. Be vulnerable and put yourself forward that I can do it.
Okay.
And there's no shame in saying, I want to parent as a man.
Absolutely, and I think that's the thing is, if it's something that you think you could do, let everybody else worry about that if that's what the problem then. But if you've got something to give, I understand why you might think, I don't think you'll be wanted. Well, let's just put that to bed now.
Yeah.
You will be wanted.
Yeah.
So if it's something that you've been thinking, do you know what? I'm not in a relationship, so could I even consider fostering? You absolutely could do it. From a young age, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a family. And so it might be that your life hasn't led you that way, but you still like the idea of being a parent. So why should we not give you the
Yeah.
opportunity to do
I
that?
think that's great.
And
More on it.
just don't think that people can think it's. I think I could imagine people thinking it would be odd asking, could I be if I could see them? I could see that as the only obstacle. Can I do this? Would I be wanted? Well, you would want it.
Yeah. How do you think by opening up these conversations, by making a safe space for boys and men to talk about their feelings, to talk about their mental health, how's that going to impact society generally, do you think?
It can only be good that we get more and more men thinking that they can be vulnerable, that they can share. That really what we do know is there's still lots of young lads in particular who've had some really negative people to watch on social media content who haven't got their best intentions, have they? And, I think we've got a responsibility, us other men who do jobs like this, to share our experiences, to just say, look, come on, there are other ways of approach to this, that we haven't got to be in this misogynistic world. We don't have to play to those, what's the word I'm looking for? Help me.
Stereotypes.
Stereotypes.
Yeah.
We don't need to play those. I think we're beyond that. But I can understand if you've only been brought up in that, why
It's hard to break
it's
the
hard
mold.
to break from the mold,
Yeah.
because particularly if you admired your dad and your granddad and the way they did things, that's fine. But we have to appreciate it is a world that's changing. And so I think people like myself would like to think that we can send out a message that there is other ways of doing it.
If you could bust one myth about fostering,
Whoa.
woof, what would it be?
The normal one is that often, and I've had this experience with parents who've approached me because they do fostering anyway, that, well, the kid's really naughty. What are the problems that these children bring? That's a massive myth. They don't bring any other more difficult challenges than what your own children bring you on a daily basis, or in a work colleague could bring you. Or people think the kids are coming to fostering that some have been naughty. It's the most horrendous thought for anybody who does this job, because actually we know that's not often the case that they're here because of parents, for a number of reasons, aren't able to look after children, and we don't need to go into that today. However, they're in with us because from no fault of their own.
Yeah.
They just want someone to care for them. And so the biggest myth is that somehow that they come with lots of problems. They come with some often complex needs, but it's not it's the problem as much as you want it to be the problem, really.
Yeah.
You just apply what it means to care and nurture for anybody for that matter. And so don't be put off the fact that you're thinking, but I'm only having these kids with all these problems. What do don't worry about that. If you apply your skills, what it is to be a good person, to be a caring person, any little hurdles that you get with working with colleagues that matter, you work on those and you get over them. You know, if you're a fair-minded person, you can work through these things. With these kids, they're actually a little bit more forgiving often. They're often loads more forgiving. And so, in many ways, you can simplify it with them, and whatever problems that you build in your head, you get over very quickly. They're in your head. What you experience is something quite totally different. You are going to have challenges that come up like you would in any walk of life. So the biggest myth I would say that I'd like to bust is that these children are the ones coming with the problems. They're not. They've had things put on them from no fault their own, and you're just going to take them and nurture them through that, build up their confidence. Don't let there be what dynamics are they going to change in your home. Some maybe.
Yeah.
Don't think that they're all bad. Again, some of those dynamics might be what you needed.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Let's Talk About Fostering. If you'd like any more information, check out the links in our description, and we'll see you next time.